Hi everyone, this is Charlotte with Fictionette.org, and today I wanted to make a short video post about seeing things and people for what they are, about empathy in writing, which is a very, very important topic. One of my friends, his name is Stefan Molyneux, makes his living by philosophizing on the internet. This is not the sort of ivory tower, intellectual masturbation type philosophy. This is actual, a practical, real approach to life type philosophy. And recently he made a podcast on what he calls the mind frackery of Harry Potter. Stefan finds it extremely untruthful, or thinks that it stretches the bounds of verisimilitude that Harry Potter, who has been, emotionally neglected by his aunt and uncle for the first 12 years of his life, put down all the time, made to sleep in a cupboard under the stairway, treated basically like a houseboy, and having his cousin Dudley, his awful cousin Dudley, favored above him for 12 years, can somehow escape entirely unscathed, and without any further assistance, without a course of therapy or someone sitting down and telling him, hey, your aunt and uncle were wrong to treat you this way. Without any of that, he can somehow go on to become, an extremely wise and proud and brave boy without any further intervention, whatever. So Steph thinks, and I think as well, that it kind of stretches the bounds of verisimilitude. Which brings us into our topic. Why did J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, write Harry in this way? Surely you would have thought that an abused boy would kind of, show signs that he had been abused if taken out of the situation and placed in another. So, for example, you wouldn't expect any of those cult children, if any had been, the people that were rescued from Waco, to, walk off the compound and suddenly become, magical, happy children integrated into society, right? If you saw this on the news, or if you saw this, in some other medium besides writing or the movies, you would think that that was completely nutso. That depiction was completely outside the bounds of reality. Stefan uses the argument that, no child, if you see a line of 50 children walking out of Auschwitz, you don't see the first 49 completely emaciated, and then the 50th child to walk out is the perfect glowing vision of health. He's plump and laughing and merry. You don't see that. And if you saw, a Holocaust movie where that was depicted, the director would be stoned or something, because that's not the way that the world works. So why is this acceptable in people's writing? And this is something to look for in your own writing, is a lack of empathy towards your characters. So Stefan also uses the example that if you have a book depicting two sisters, as I do, for example, the current novel that I'm writing, Violante, depicts two sisters. And one sister spiraled, down into the depths of craziness and self-destructiveness, as Violante does in the novel. And the other sister goes on to be, the perfect wife and mother, and she's happy and she's loving life, in the way that Prima Flora does in my novel. There must be some difference between them. So if you see that, the two sisters go to opposite poles of, the happiness and the joy that they get out of their life, then there must be some difference in the way that they're being treated, as there is between Violante and Prima Flora, for example. If the sisters are treated exactly the same, what you're basically saying to the people who read your book is, apparently you can be, abused, and you can either go off and be happy and joyful in your life, or you can become a complete train wreck. And so, Violante must have done something completely wrong to be a train wreck. Well, this is obviously not the case. And writing, if I was to write the book in that way, then it would definitely show a lack of empathy towards Violante, and also a lack of empathy towards my readers, for example. So if I would basically be saying, if you had the same sort of childhood Violante did, and you've ever been depressed at all because of it, that's your fault. I think that Stefan makes a really great point when talking about that. So things to watch out for when being empathetic towards your characters. First, truth, always. Look at the verisimilitude of what you're talking about. So have you ever known anyone who had, the same sort of childhood or the same sort of experiences as your character? If so, how did they turn out? So for example, if your character is a rape victim and you depict her as happy and jolly without having gone through, years of therapy or some sort of counseling to, get her life back, and you depict her as happy and jolly for no particular reason, then what are you saying to rape victims, really? So look at the verisimilitude. If you've known a rape victim who is, now really enjoying her life, then she's probably gone through a whole lot of self-work to get where she is. So depict your character as either doing all of that self-work or suffering the negative consequences of being raped, such as, depression, maybe, a lack of desire for sex, etc., etc. Look at the truth value in what you're depicting. Other things to consider when looking at, empathy in your characters. Go out, take a look at, the majority of people that you meet. Are they extremely happy? Are they extremely depressed? Are they somewhere in the middle, just kind of living their lives? If you have characters who are at some sort of pole emotionally, then give them a backstory that goes along with that. So if you have an extremely depressed person, they probably didn't have the most loving parents in the world. Or if they're in an abusive relationship, then they probably saw some kind of abuse somewhere, in their past. Take a look at exactly what you're depicting the characters as having gone through and make that match up with their backstory. Don't commit that sort of lack of empathy, not only for your characters, not only for your readers, but also for yourself and what you're telling yourself. So anyway, this has been a bit of a ramble vlog, but I think that this is an extremely, extremely important thing to consider when you're writing anything, which is also, it plays into that why I gave the prompt that I did in the past Writecast is, write the story of how nature looks to a murderer. Well, nature looks fundamentally different to a murderer than it would to, a child who, has good parents and is happy and jolly. So that was, in a way, not only a psychological exercise, but an exercise in empathy. So it's all in there. Anyway, I hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week. I'll be back tomorrow with a little Thursday inspiration, and then again on Friday with a brand new Friday piece. It's going to be very interesting. Hope you have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.